Hi, welcome to the Legislative Council complex. We're currently on a guided tour looking at the aftermath of Monday's protest, whereby protesters stormed the facility. And as you can see, here are some plastic zip ties that have been left here by protesters, and wall hangings that were previously hung up have been torn down. As you can see, LegCo staff are in a hurry to push reporters to quickly film. Here you can see chairs have been displaced. A lot of food and plastic bottles have been left behind. As you see here, there are a lot of metal barriers that have been displaced, a lot of paper on the ground, spray-painted walls saying dog, reference to police officers. As you can see here, a television has been smashed as well.
This way. Into the chamber first, please.
Okay, now we're moving into the main chamber of LegCo. You can see the walls have been spray-painted. There are yellow safety hats that have been left behind by protesters as well, umbrellas as well that were used to shield them, shield their identities. You can see over there the Hong Kong Bohemia emblem has been spray painted black, with signs also been graffitied saying oppose China extradition, Carrie Lam step down, withdraw. A lot of rubbish has been left behind too. Now, some leftover McDonald's as well. LegCo staff are telling us not to touch anything. Earlier, police had been inspecting the scene, collecting evidence. As you can see, a significant amount of rubbish has been left behind, but not much damage to the computer screens. The desks have been spray painted here. Various bits of food as well have been left behind. And this was, of course, the scene where protesters were debating whether or not to stay in the chamber when police announced that they were going to clear the area just after midnight on Tuesday morning. Now, protesters on Monday had been occupying the space outside LegCo for several hours, and there had actually been clashes early in the morning at around 4 a.m. Where police used pepper spray against protesters, and this incident coincided with a separate annual July 1st Democracy March. Now, earlier, LegCo staff were telling reporters that they decided to put on this press tour because they received multiple requests from media organizations. LegCo President Andrew Leung said that it would take several weeks to repair the damage, and that meetings had been cancelled. Okay, LegCo staff telling us to vacate the chamber. A lot of the materials that have been used by protesters in recent weeks have been scattered around the chamber. So zip ties, water, which has its own practical purpose, but also to kind of wash pepper spray and tear gas. A lot of hard hats as well. Okay, we're being escorted out now.
Okay, thank you.
Now, the storming of LegCo comes several weeks after weeks of protests, originally sparked by the government's controversial extradition bill, which has since been suspended but not withdrawn, as per the requests of many protesters and groups. But the protests have since morphed into a wider display of public discontent over Carrie Lam, calls for democracy, as well as police accountability with regards to crowd control measures on June 12th. You can see here there are graffitied signs saying "You'd asked for it," and many of the portraits of LegCo presidents have been defaced, bar two. Right, we're moving into the next room, which has been, you can see furniture has kind of been turned, but surprisingly here no artifacts have been touched, and protesters were making a conscious effort on Monday evening not to loot or break any of these items. You can see here chairs broken, and a screen over here has been smashed, and something is making a buzzing noise, presumably this, and on it is, the word freedom has been graffitied. And again, a significant amount of rubbish has been left behind. A lot of snacks. Now, Monday's events were really unprecedented in Hong Kong's recent history. Many pro-democracy lawmakers were warning protesters against such actions. For example, Claudia Mo was seen pleading with protesters, asking them to think about their mothers, particularly in reference to the rioting charge that can be levelled against protesters, which carries a maximum of 10 years in jail. And over there you can see on another screen the word freedom has been graffitied. Just go up here quickly. Another graffiti sign saying "I love HK, I love Hong Kong." They're warning us not to go up here, but we'll just take a quick look. A lot of the carpet has been destroyed. Sign here saying the graffiti saying "Hong Kong, true democracy, freedom, no China" over in the background. Okay, we're being ushered down now. Okay, we're being ushered out of the room. We're also being told not to touch anything because the area is still, quote, a crime scene. Okay, and there's a sign saying oppose China extradition, oppose sending to China, Hong Kong, add oil, or come on Hong Kong. See some trash has been left behind here too. Now, hundreds of protesters stormed LegCo after making their way in through its rear entrance. They'd been kind of chipping away at the glass doors towards the back of LegCo for several hours, and they had been unscrewing the metal gates that protected the rear entrance. And then eventually they broke through and broke open the metal shutters, and police officers had been occupying the space behind those shutters previously, but they were seen retreating into somewhere in LegCo, which essentially allowed protesters kind of free rein for several hours within the facility. Some kind of structure has been pulled from the ceiling over there.
美德就美德，10萬有，10萬人。喂，影完的士，影完的士。想下 swap 啲位啊，大家可能。
Of course, there is a heavy press presence here as well. Press are being guided in groups around LegCo. And people have been writing slogans on the whiteboard here, fuck the popo, meaning police, don't give up, that kind of stuff.
One, two, three.
Our meetings have been cancelled, obviously, to allow for refurbishment during this period. And if you're just joining us now, we're on a guided tour around the Legislative Council complex, which protesters stormed on Monday in kind of unprecedented events. And this came, weeks after. Weeks of protests, originally sparked by the government's controversial extradition bill, which has since been suspended, but many people have called for its full withdrawal. And now it's sort of morphed into a wider public display of discontent over Chief Executive Carrie Lam calling for her resignation, calls for democracy as well as police accountability regarding crowd control measures on the used during the protests on June 12th. You can see someone here has graffitied the wall. We'll just take a tour down here.
So this is our technical room of the press conference room, okay?
So a member of LegCo staff is telling me that this is the technical room. Do you do translations for what happens here?
Because some protesters are broken and some technical, some are broken and damaged. Yeah. Some facilities are broken and damaged.
Okay, so that was a member of LegCo staff just telling me how protesters on Monday evening broke in and damaged some of the equipment here. And you can see some of our live streams on our Facebook page. We had several reporters here who are covering the storming.
Okay.
You see some panels here have been damaged, being ushered into the next room, and a panel has been pulled off of the table. You can see several wires are jutting out. And this is a control room for, presumably for Legco TV. And taken into the next room where you can see paper is littered on the floor, some TV has been pulled off, another book here has been torn.
Thank you, we have to go.
Of course, Legco staff are ushering reporters out, and you can see lots of metal barricades have been put together here using plastic zip ties, and protesters have been using these kind of makeshift barricades over the past few weeks to stymie kind of police and to prevent them from moving forward. Here we have another conference room, of course, we were just here. And reporters have been given roughly over an hour to tour the Legco facility, and of course Legco is a large facility. Show you broken glass here. We're being ushered upstairs. Now, many groups have come out condemning the unrest. So the American Chamber of Commerce issued a statement condemning what they said was, quote, violence. Which of course is a term that the Hong Kong government has since used as well. The American Chamber of Commerce previously came out against the extradition bill, or at least expressed its concern over the controversial bill. Many other groups like the Law Society have also condemned the unrest. And you can see many of the roads are open now, so cars are allowed to drive through, and of course previously those roads have been occupied by protesters, which is a common tactic used by them. And so in the early hours of Tuesday, in order to clear the roads, police deployed tear gas to push crowds back, and they dispersed within a matter of hours. Here on the second floor. This is a press stand-up normally used by lawmakers and other politicians to speak to the press. And as you can see, mics have been pulled off the stand. Although, surprisingly, the camera stands have remained intact. Perhaps they've been propped up again. And someone has, of course, graffitied the wall. Here we can have a bird's eye view of the floor below. Hong Kong is not China, it's graffitied on the wall over there. And photographs have been graffitied out as well.
With a lot of force, of course, coming up. Right.
I'm doing a Facebook Live. Can I speak to you after that? Okay, so a metal shutter has presumably been pulled away or pulled down, perhaps. Have a quick look at the floor below. Here you can see in the corner, opposed, sent to China. Something has been graffitied out but says your mother, and then fuck the popo, which means the police. If you're just joining us now, we're here on a guided tour around the Legislative Council complex, which on Monday was stormed by protesters, many of them masked, after occupying the roads outside for several hours. They'd actually been occupying those roads since well into the day before. And that incident coincided with a largely peaceful, organised march, which occurs every July 1st. And as you can see here, there is some kind of wire that's been pulled off the ceiling, and it's been numbered, presumably by people investigating the scene. See some fingerprints there too. Here we are in another meeting room.
We are not sure, but I think so. But I'm not sure because this is not the sign put up by us. Probably.
As you can see here, it's relatively in a relatively untouched. Although I can see over there a screen has been smashed, and that's of course been numbered. There's also been a bit of graffiti at the front saying "Post sent to China." Electrical staff telling us not to walk too far forward, and they also warned us earlier not to touch anything because police are still investigating the scene.
我都唔知啊！呢啲鐘點解停晒？真係好問題。同一個時間嚟考慮。因為同一個時間停嘅，係喎。
Have a look around.
我唔係嗱，即係 off the record， 我唔肯定係咪有啲鐘全部都係同一嘅。嗰啲係電線。
Now, most of the chairs have remained in place. There, of course, has been that one computer screen. I'm not sure if any more have been smashed. And the door over there has been locked as well. Now they're just warning reporters to be careful of hitting their heads because of some overhead structures.
我现在插着耳机听不到您讲话。对，所以我跟着您走，但是我现在在直播，您不可以这样打断我。
And here you can see the sign for the for LegCo. It's got some marks on it as well. Now, just to recap, these protests have happened come weeks after protests, initially sparked by the extradition bill. Now, the government suspended the bill, but protesters have since called for its full withdrawal, saying that the bill could be reintroduced after the start of the legislative year.
Now going to the demonstration area.
LegCo staff is telling me now that we're going to the demonstration area. Of course, this comes after a protester died while protesting the extradition bill a few weeks prior. And two other people have since died, apparently leaving suicide notes relating to the extradition bill. We're just making our way down the escalators. See someone who has also graffitied the wall. And you can see some people here are putting wooden panels over the broken glass. And there are several metal barricades that have that were moved in, and they've been tied together using zip ties. See some of the elevators here as well have been spray painted and damaged here. And the character for Dog has been spray painted on the wall as well. Supreme Leader as well.
This is our security control room, and you can see that the video. I mean the CCTV wall. It has been damaged quite completely. 係啦，我哋影緊 control room 啦，好啦。
This is when the LegCo staff just told me that this is a security control room. You can see a lot of paper has been thrown on the floor. Some desks have been overturned. Some computers as well have been thrown on the floor. Some of the screens have been smashed. And the TV screens over there have also been smashed. And we're just going to take a look at the rear over there. Now this is the side that protesters had entered in through on Monday, and they've been working away at the glass doors for some time, and they eventually smashed through them just before midnight, and prized open the metal shutters. Just take a look at a room over here. See, paper as well has been thrown on the floor. Some chairs have been put on top of the desks. Some of the ceiling has also been has fallen on the floor too. Now, the Civil Human Rights Front, which organised the annual July 1st Democracy March, has issued a statement. They issued it on Tuesday, voicing their support for protesters. But of course, the July 1st March was a separate event to the protesters outside LegCo. See, graffiti here says Hong Kong, not China. And the Legislative Council sign has been spray painted or painted over. And there's a graffiti over there that says it's not China, not yet, reference to Hong Kong. Let's take a quick look at the room over there. Graffiti over there saying we are not China. And you can see metal barriers on the floor as well have been tied together using plastic zip ties. See some umbrellas on the floor as well, which were previously used to shield the identities of protesters, but also protect them from pepper spray, which was used by police. And of course, police are facing accusations of misconduct for their crowd control measures relating to the protests on June 12th. You see, this glass here has also been smashed. Now, protesters have been occupying this area outside LegCo for several weeks now, of course, coming and going. This was originally sparked by the government's proposed extradition bill, which has since been suspended, but many people have called for its withdrawal. But the protests have since morphed into a wider public display of discontent over alleged police brutality relating to the use of tear gas and rubber bullets, as well as calls for democracy. Now we're currently at the rear of LegCo, which is the space that protesters were occupying just before they broke in. You can see a lot of artwork has been left in the space behind LegCo. Now, if you're just joining us, we're currently on a tour around the Legislative Council complex, which protesters stormed on Monday in an unprecedented event. But this comes after weeks of protests sparked by the government's proposed extradition bill, which has since been suspended, but many people have since called for its withdrawal. We can see here the door which protesters smashed through to enter the complex. Thank you for joining us here at Hong Kong Free Press. Visit our website for more information or keep up to date on our Facebook and Twitter pages.